Eliyahu.
Max.
I'm also early, and like I said, I'm never usually late. It was just like
No worries.
it was like a thing because tonight's Nissim. This guy Nissim's performing. You heard of this guy? Yeah. So there's a lot of like people like bugging out, like people want to come, and I don't know if they should, and this and that. The dress, the sound people. It's all that technical stuff.
What do you need dress people for?
Huh?
What do you need dress people for?
Why do I want to dress people?
No, what are dress people?
Address.
Oh, address.
No dressing. We're not putting on a show like that.
It sounded like that.
We're not that theatrical here, yeah? I mean, we're all dressed up in some way or form. Look at me.
That's true.
Okay, so this is a new parsha. Parsha's Vayishlach, yeah? Vayishlach with Esav, and we just went through that. Sorry, we're Parsha's Vayishin. Nobody corrects me. I can just say whatever I want.
I wasn't sure if you were going to be talking about the new parsha from last week or.
Yeah, no, we have to keep it fresh, even what we heard last week. But we dealt with Esav. Esav, funny enough, is Rosh Tevis. We said already, Akiva Shemai Ba'atolam. His first letters was very symbolic. It has big sparks in it. And I saw Rav Sodek on Shabbos. I was looking while we were reading the Parsha in Shul. I dove in the real Medina Shul, like the Israeli flag was flying, and they said all these prayers for the soldiers. And I was the only guy dressed like this. It was like really an interesting experience. And I was looking around, and I showed my brother-in-law who runs a special place called the Jerusalem Sober House. That's why I was davening there. And it says there about Rabbi Meir. But not only did big souls like Rabbi Akiva come out of Esav, they were descendants from Esav, Shemai Avtalan, but also came out from him Rabbi Meir. We spoke about this once. And I saw it in Rav Sodek, I saw it inside, I haven't seen it for a while. It says about this idea of the Caesar, in Hebrew. The Caesar was Nerion or Nero. There's different names, way of saying his name. And his son, he was a convert. He converted. It says in the Roman text, we already said before, he went crazy, and his son converted. He converted, and his son that came out from Nero, Meir ben Nero, was Rabbi Meir Balanes. Yeah,
the son of this
King, emperor. He was going to come and destroy Yerushalayim. And he went to some children, so Gemara and Gittin, and the child was shooting arrows in the air.
He just married a Jewish woman?
Remember this Gemara, and it kept coming back. And they said the child was saying Nevuah, because when you ask a child, Sukkim, it says, the person who goes up to Yerushalayim, Hashem's going to revenge on him. Yeah? He's going to be successful, but he's going to, because the Jews aren't doing what they're meant to do back then. But
it's like from the Haftarah this week.
Yeah, we have Avadia. Very good. See, we're still in the Parsha. What can we do? I'm still in Vayishlach. No, but there definitely is a connection between last week's Parsha and this week's Parsha. There always is. There's this idea in Torah called smichas. When something is next to each other, it has a connection. It's nothing's whatever. That's what the Shir is all about. Nothing's whatever. There's a flow. So everyone was in Shabbos. Everyone tapped into a certain light when they were in the shul this Shabbos. There was the 8 kings. We said it's connected to the 8 nights of Hanukkah. We spoke about it in last week's class. And what we have to try and do is realize that if Rabbi Meir, what does Meir mean? It means to light up. And Nero is a candle. And Meir got lit up like a candle, and he lit up the candle of his father, Roman emperor, who became a Jew, and it lit up the whole world. Rabbi Meir Balanes, everyone knows Rabbi Meir Balanes. He was the master of miracles. Hanukkah's all about miracles, and we're having a guy come in tonight called Nissim. His name's Miracle. Yeah? And this whole idea of the miracles, we spoke about it last week a lot. But what we got to tap into this world of beyond. That's the idea. That it's not revealed. It will be when Mashiach comes, and that will be the unbelievable experience. Mashiach talks about it by Purim. It says when Mashiach comes, all the Chagim are going to be bottled except for Purim.
They're going to be what?
Bottled, nullified. Bottled. In Hebrew means nullified.
Right. I just didn't hear you.
Yeah, sorry, my accent's a little bit English. Anyway,
I was just going to ask, it sounds unusual because even, you have examples in Breshit, in the Tanakh, of people celebrating Pesach before it happened. Of people celebrating Hanukkah, even some Mefarshim say celebrating Hanukkah
hints
before,
in the Parsha.
before it happened. happen.
There's
But so I'm
hints in
saying
the parsha.
then it's very hidden. Why is it? I'm saying then if the events that haven't even happened,
and it's hinted to, and not only that, the Torah itself commands you to keep it.
So wouldn't
and
it
there's whole
sound-
korbanos, and what suddenly the Torah disappears.
right? So why would we?
Butter, why would we nullify those festivals? So what's the answer to that? You have an answer? What do you think the answer is? You have an answer? Anybody here has an answer?
Well, I don't have.
Question.
It's a good question. Okay, I have an answer. I listened to a lot of tzaddikim, and I read a book once which gave me the best answer. Yeah, just making sure it's works. It just does this funny business. It's basically like this. There's a name Rav Shraga Fiber Mendelovich. He started yeshiva in a time when nobody wanted to go to yeshiva. You have to be mad in America to go to yeshiva. You have to make a living, guys. You got to make a knasa. You ever heard that one? It's all this dreaming about spirituality. America's all about the money, guys. More money. Yeah, I don't know. We can quote 100 different sayings. Proves the point. The golden Medina. Everyone talks about it. This golden country, this place of dreams. People the streets are paved with gold. It's all a lie. But whatever. The person thinks that. When they came to America. Even talk to some people nowadays in Israel. America. It's like this amazing place. Anyway, I'm not putting it down, I'm just saying. So, this idea of America, whatever. So, but bottom line is you make what you want of it, obviously. Each person has that responsibility as choice to make it special, make it spiritual. But to open up a yeshiva in America in a time where, like when he did, it was like unheard of. And he managed to somehow, he was a strong personality, very spiritual. He managed to convince some very important people to back it, and it's still here till today, Torah V'das, and has come out from it numerous fruits, and he sent his best students to other yeshivas to help them, and all the whole yeshiva world in some way or another was affected by him, everybody and everyone. So what we got to realize is let's do it like this a little bit. I don't feel so good about resting on tefillin. So this whole idea of the yeshiva world, how did that all come about with Shag Vanovich, and what did he say? How did he answer the question? So I just wanted to get a background of him. He was a guy a holy rabbi who lived. We shouldn't call him a guy. He lived like a life of exile. Like Yaakov had to go out to exile. Last week's parsha and the parsha before, he was coming back from exile. Now this week's parsha, V'yeshev. You think finally he's got there. We're in this week's parsha, V'yeshev. He's there. He's sitting in the land. He's not really sitting in the land, because what happens? The key to the whole dream that Yaakov had goes into exile again. Who's that? Yosef. And from that his sons, and eventually himself. So the Yeshiva, there's no such thing as yeshiva in this world. You're never really sitting. It's always a feeling of, you can try, but the only real shalva and Yeshiva Das is going to be when Mashiach comes, when things are really. So what is it when Mashiach comes, and how can it be that it's going to be like Purim? We'll talk about this Purim again, hopefully, when we're coming up to Purim. How can it be that such a festival of Purim can be so powerful? And it was made by the rabbis. Hanukkah as well was made by the rabbis. It wasn't part. It's hinted in the Torah, but it wasn't a sivui from the Torah. It's not a mitzvah from the Torah to keep Purim or Hanukkah. So how could it be that it has the power to nullify all the other hagim which are written in the Torah? We're just strengthening the question first. So obviously something about Purim is a hint to something special, and that's what this whole Hanukkah and Purim are all about. They're described as in Kabbalah as Netzach and Hod. You know these two words? Netzach and Hod are different spiritual manifestations, emanations. Is the fourth and fifth midah from the 7 midas of spiritual emanations. Kindness, Kavura, Tiferes, that's Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, and then Moshe and Aaron. Moshe and Aaron is Netzach and Hod. These are the legs. The whole body stands off this. The right thigh, the left thigh, the whole body stands off. It says in Svarim, the Tomchem Torah. You ever heard of Tomchem Tamimim, Tomchem Torah?
Tomchem Shabbos?
Yeah, Tomchem Shabbos. The idea of Tomchem means to establish. Stands up. Think about it. Your legs, without legs, a person doesn't stand. And to have healthy legs is the key. And what's that usually represented in terms of yeshiva? That you have to have the right funding. You have to have the right tomchem, the right pillars to support that establishment. So Shogeg Vaymelech was saying about these two festivals, and that was his challenge in America, to get those Tumchim, the Netzach and Hod, to stand, keep Torah alive, to keep it alive, because nobody was interested. And he managed. And look how he explains Purim, which is one of those representative in the spiritual calendar of Netzach and Hod, of these pillars that keep the Jewish people standing in exile. Just out of interest, what do we do on both those festivals? We give charity to Talmidei Chachamim and to poor people. Yeah, that's the whole idea. Establishing the idea of yeshivas, it's the whole idea of learning and spirituality has a certain standing point thanks to those two festivals. And what is Esav? When Esav was fighting Yaakov last week, what did he hit Yaakov in?
The leg.
Yeah. Where?
When they get on a ship.
The thigh. Yes, where is that? In the thigh.
Right.
And that was because he was attacking, it says in Sifrei Kabbalah, it says he was attacking the meter of Hod. He was attacking, and he tried to get a Netzach. Netzach he couldn't get. Why? Who's Netzach? Who's coming and being Lenatzeach? Who was successful to destroy the seed of Esav that was wrong? Amalek. Who was successful? Shaul HaMelech. He was Lenatzeach. Netzach means to be victorious. He was victorious, but not completely. And who was his descendant that eventually finished off the job with destroying Amalek? Because he wasn't successful. We said this last week. Mordechai said it. Yeah. So this idea of being able to stand, keep up the pillar of Netzach, that was successful thanks to Mordechai Sadi, and that's the festival of Purim. Something happens in Purim which is very important, guys, that we have to take with us, and we're going to see hints throughout these parshas of Purim as well. The Suda Yosef made when he reunited all his brothers as a hint to the Purim Suda, the unification. I'm already talking about after the Lashon Hara of Yosef. He wasn't making it up. He was saying real things to the brothers. You got that? Elio, yeah? He was saying real things to the brothers.
Yeah.
With, about the brothers. He was saying dreams. He was saying real insights that were going to be. But obviously, once again, like we're saying in this exile, things are hidden. So the truth of Yosef was hidden to the brothers. They didn't know who he was. They didn't know who the tzaddik, the idea of tzaddik. You know what tzaddik means? A righteous person. It doesn't just mean like externally. It means his whole inner level, his soul level is the soul of the tzaddik. Each generation is promised there'll be 36 tzaddikim in every generation. Like the 36 candles are kind of...
We have 36 right now?
Huh?
We have 36 tzaddikim right now?
It has to be. Because otherwise it's not fair for everybody. Like if Hashem's hiding himself, he at least has to put his messengers in the world that reveal and guide us, his shepherds, to keep the sheep in the right place.
We know who they are or no?
Tzaddikim know who they are. Tzaddikim know who they are. Do I know who they are? I know a few. If you want to talk to him about
I'm not going to brag about it, but...
I know a few. I'm not a tzaddik, but I've been, thank God, I'm blessed. It's not bragging. I'm just being... Just talking the reality. There's some people. I mean, would they hold themselves as a tzaddikim? No, that's not the point. If you go to the top of the story and you find out they give the heck sharing.
Can you talk to them or no?
Can you talk to them? Yeah, there are people there.
Where do we find these guys?
I don't want to start listing names because some people might differ with me. And then in Hilchos Lashon Hara, you can't be careful because there are people who even just like Yosef Asadik. The brothers were against Yosef Asadik. Is that right? So, even in the Jewish people, there are people against the tzaddikim. They're not Rishoyim, those people. They're not evil people. They just don't understand that light. They don't recognize it. Yosef is hidden to them for whatever reason. Whatever their reason is, Yosef is hidden to those people. Just like the spiritual light of Hanukkah and Purim is hidden. But it comes out a little bit through the candles and Purim. How does it come out? How does it come out in Purim? And that's going to answer the big question we had at the beginning of the class. It comes out in Purim like this. This hidden light comes out is the idea of Keser Malchus. You ever heard of this idea? And it's the only time in the whole of Tanakh we hear this word Keser Malchus.
But isn't it a bit repetitive?
What?
Keter, I don't know.
No, it says the idea of Melech a lot, but it's only one time in Tanakh it says Keser Malchus, and that's by Purim. That's by Megillah. And this Keter Malchus is taking the highest light of Keter as a crown and bringing it all the way down to Malchus, which is the feet itself, not just the legs. Legs is Netzach and Hod, but the feet is the lowest level. The Tzaddik is represented by Yesod. That's already the 6th, and the 7th is Malchus. That's already the whole body stands off the feet. So bringing down the spirituality all the way down to the feet, to the lowest places, that's Keser Malchus, and that talks about that in Purim. So how do we explain it on a simple level? This is what Shogeg Mendelovich said. He said because the whole power of Purim is taking the world of miracles and making it into nature, bringing the truth out that the whole physical, political, natural world is spiritual. Now, let me ask you, whenever you think of spiritual, you think of something beyond, some revelation, something, wow, you know, like, wow, that happened to you, like you almost went off a cliff and you like hanged on, your car like stood at the end, and miraculously this powerful wind came and pushed you back. That must have been God, you know. Or the guy who fell off the cliff, you know, and hanged onto a branch and managed to like, you know, all these like ideas of miracle, people in the middle of the water, you know, everyone has their stories. I have 100 of them myself, you know. The other day, my son, when we lived in Jerusalem, it's a really crazy town these days, very busy. Holy city, but very busy. And the cars, they drive a bit crazy, and people now are on their machines, you know, they're standing there with their machine, looking at it while they're driving or sitting, and then they're not even watching while they're parking. But suddenly there's my son walking into a normal place which shouldn't be a parking place. It's just been made into one because, you know, and it's not officially a parking, and this guy just drives in there, not even looking. And my wife watched him miraculously just sort of fly out of the way. And my wife was screaming, "Ah!" And all the people in the street were, "Ah!" And the guy was looking at his machine, didn't even notice, and he just drove, and suddenly my son wasn't there. An angel moved him, something, Abishtan, just literally moved him. Everyone who was there saw it. And the only one who didn't see it was the guy in the car. And he suddenly like realised everyone's screaming at him, going nuts. He almost just killed a kid. And he gets out, and he closes the door, locks his door, and carries on with his machine like nothing happened. Yeah? And these things happen every day. So now, Purim shows us that this kind of miraculous existence that the Jewish people live, and the truth of the world, that everyone's living miraculously, the truth is. The fact that the way the rain comes and waters the field and the land, suddenly this idea, Tchias HaMesim, of resurrection of the dead, take these broken old, you know, pieces of dirt, like they're called seeds, and suddenly it grows from that whole life and comes from like a, you know, the ground, this place of dirt and mud, comes this beautiful fruit tree and feeds people, and you know, like the whole creation, that natural world, the way Hashem just made it is miraculous. And so we forget that. We think it's just teva, it's natural, it's just meant to be that way. But teva is really gematria Elokim, it's God. And really, hateva is gematria Elokim. And really, everything really is Hashem. Yeah, that's the truth. So, what we've got to realize is that when Purim comes, we suddenly say Kesem Malkus. We say that Hashem's highest light is really down here in the lowest worlds. It's completely revealed. It's not something just for fairy tales. It's not something that was. And it's not. It was something. When Mashiach comes, it will be something that is. And we're going to see constantly spirituality in everything. Politically, everything makes sense. Every single Russia, every Hitler, Haman had a purpose to it. Yeah. Every single negative empire and political scheme was all being run underneath by Hashem. It says the hearts of the kings are in Hashem's hands. So all the kings, the presidents, everyone, Obama, all these people, they're all being run by God. And we're going to see how it's all Hashem's hands. In everything. Just like happened in Purim, all the political intrigue was just to reveal that Hashem, the Yehudim Ha'Yisrael, the Sim Ksos and Vika, all the spirituality is there. And the Jews took on the Torah anew. It was a revealed experience where Kimu V'Kiblu, where everyone became alive to bring out the Torah, to take it on themselves. Kimu V'Kiblu. So what's Hanukkah then? Hanukkah is a later festival. Hanukkah is the second festival. And that comes after. So if when Mashiach comes, you've got a new question I never even thought of. If Mashiach comes, so why do we need another festival, Hanukkah, if Mashiach comes, we're only going to have Purim? We don't even need that other festival, because Purim should have been the last of the festivals, no? It makes sense. It was the last Sefer in Tanakh that was written, Megillas Esther, so why do we need Hanukkah? Hanukkah comes, there's no Sefer in Tanakh, there's no book in Tanakh, there's no book in the Bible, it's completely rabbinic. Even if you go into Shas and Poskim and the Mishnayos, and you look it up, in how much does it appear in the actual Mishnayos? Just hints, like a Gemara in Shabbos, which talks about the menorah has to be above, if it's above 20 amas, 20 amas, and if it's below 10 tefachim. I mean, suddenly there's a Mishnah that talks about with a camel, and it's with the flax, and it's leading it through, and if the flax sets on fire because some guy had his menorah outside his shop, you know, he should have put it high up, or he should have below, or maybe not, maybe he's potter because it's Rishus Rabbim, yeah, or the guy was banging his hammer on the sword, yeah, he's banging his hammer on the sword, no problem, it's all good, it's still going, would you believe it? He's banging his hammer on the sword. and he's making sparks. Yeah, he's a blacksmith, and that spark goes out and sets on fire all the flax. Yeah, all these different hints in Mishnayos, but there's not really like going into Hilchos Hanukkah. That's going on to is the guy whose flax set on fire, chayav or potter. It's just like hints of it. So we see it's not something that's even in Shas. Yeah? So Hanukkah is such a hidden festival in Torah. So obviously the point is what was going on is, and that's why nowadays there's so much written about Hanukkah, because Hanukkah was something that was a festival that came down from Mashiach to prepare us for Mashiach. It was the last of the festivals. It has a light that prepares us for Mashiach. These two festivals are very much Netzach and Hod. The whole Jewish people stand up these festivals. They're preparing us for a time that we could still be standing. And even though we're fighting the Malach of Esav, he's fighting us. What does it say at the beginning of this week's parsha? Who's the flame that goes out? We talked about it last week. Who's the flame? No, Yaakov's the fire. He's the Eish. Beis Yosef. We had it in the Torah. Yeah, thanks a lot, man. Beis Yaakov Eish. Beis Yosef what? Lahava, he's a flame. You read it this week, the Haftorah?
Yeah, but I'm not remembering.
Remember, you have to remember this pasuk, it's important. Beis Yaakov is the Eish, Beis Yaakov is a fire, and Beis Yosef is the flame, Lahava is a flame, and Beis Esav is the kash. The house of Esav is a kash, a straw. So when I was talking about America before, America's built up this whole material empire. Yeah? You agree, guys?
Of course.
Yeah, this whole material empire is there. And it's a powerful empire. It fills up the world with materialism, and everyone's into America's materialism. But in a way, it's just like a big storehouse of cash, of straw. And we already said straw is represented is the same Rosh Hashanah as Kina and Sina.
Right, I know.
Jealousy and hatred.
Yeah, I remember what you said.
Cash. Yeah. Now what's Aish? Fire is Ava and Shalom. We said this last week. And the love and truth of and peace of the Jewish people brings out this flame of Yosef. Yosef's the Tzaddik, Yud Sof. If you look at his words, he takes the Yud of that fire of Yaakov, the Yud of Akev, the Yud that brings down to Yaakov, and he takes that Yud to the Sof, to the end, and he brings down this Yud from the name of God into the lowest places. And that was why Yosef became the king of Egypt, the king of the material world, because he takes spirituality and makes the material world spiritual. And that's the most powerful thing, not just to destroy. It's not just the idea of burning up the house of Esau. It's revealing that underneath all the materialism is spirituality. And that's really the combination with Hanukkah and Purim. We get the flame from Hanukkah, and then it goes into Purim, which is to reveal the truth, that everything's spiritual. Would you believe that? When you go to university, when you could learn anything, we said last week, Hanukkah is the seven wisdoms in the world. Hanukkah gives the fire, the inner light behind those wisdoms. So then everything has a spiritual content. So you're not just in the world and whatever, I've got to learn this, I've got to learn that, I'll be this, be that. It always has a root in spirituality. And the job of a Jew is to show that, not just to get caught up in whatever he's doing. Like he has a profession, he's a psychologist, or he's a scientist, or he's an artist, or whatever a Jew chooses to do with his abilities. A Jew has to show how there's spirituality behind it. And it's being done now much more than ever. That Jews are now, we're exposed to everything, to all the wisdoms and all the internet and the university, and everything's exposed. We're exposed to everything, all the wisdoms, but we can now bring out the spirituality that's underneath all those wisdoms. So it shouldn't make us into an atheist, God forbid, or something that distances us from spirituality. It should be spiritual. Hanukkah and Purim is spiritual, and it brings that light into everything. The idea of the menorah, we put it on the left, we put it down below. We talked about this already. Even if you put it high up, the only way you can put it very high up, 20 amas, which 20, by the way, is interesting. We'll talk about it in a minute. But 20 amas is this idea of, it's like beyond your view. Like we have a sukkah. Sukkah and Hanukkah, there's a connection. It's beyond your view. Brother, it's beyond your view. You don't even see it. It's above. Your eyes don't see it. So therefore, what's the problem? How are you allowed to put your menorah above 20 if you have other buildings that can see it? Yeah?
Oh, if you're on a taller building?
Yeah, tall building, because then the other tall buildings, they can see it. So then it's fine. All the people in the house can see it. Either way, but it has to be seen. The whole point is to advertise the miracle. It's not just for yourself. Whereas Megillah, there's no such thing as going out and showing everyone. You don't have to go read the Megillah to the whole world. You don't have to make a song, I believe in miracles, and tell everyone about Hanukkah like we do Hanukkah. Hanukkah is the only festival the Jewish people publicize the miracle. No other festival we do that. So with Purim, though, the whole point of Purim is you don't need to do that. Because look, what do we do Purim? We're not just saying Halav V'Hodah. There's no mitzvah of Sudom in Hanukkah. There's There's no mitzvah of eating meals. Purim, we eat meals, we go physical. Hanukkah is a very spiritual, sensitive light, but it goes everywhere. But Purim, we be physical, we drink, we have a good time, and that's spiritual. We show this world that even the things that people think is the furthest from spirituality is spiritual. Having a party, playing music and singing and politics, all this stuff becomes spiritual. That's an amazing thing. It comes a mitzvah, Suda's Purim, and there's no Suda by Hanukkah. If you sing and praise Hashem, there's a reason. Like I am going to make a house party, guys. I've got the date. It's 2 weeks tonight, Sunday night, on Hanukkah.
My dad will be here. So.
Great, you can bring him along to Beitar. It's going to be in Beitar. It's an interesting place to visit. We're opening up our house to everyone. The first time we're having any large amount of guests to our new house. So it'll be like a little bit of a Hanukkah Sabayas, Hanukkah Sabayas. It's literally, we're making Hanukkah Sabayas. We're making a housewarming party, on Hanukkah. So you'll say to me, yeah, but the real party's Purim. That's true. That's why I'm going to come to you guys Purim. Because then I'm going to, have a little bit of a, have a little bit of a party, But Hanukkah, you can make it the pseudo spiritual. Why? Because you praise Hashem. We're going to thank Hashem that I have a house, and please God, we shall get there in one piece. By the way, Erev Shabbos, I had another miracle. The plugs that we had for the washing machine, I think the movers, when they moved us, they just plug in whatever they could find to test if it was working, and they used this adapter that was a bit faulty, and I didn't get round to changing it. And
you start a fire?
Yeah, Erev Shabbos, I started even smelling this weird smell, but sometimes it smells because we're not that far from our towns, and some of the farmers, sometimes they burn stuff or whatever, and maybe there's a smell. I didn't look around the house, there was no smoke or anything, nothing. Right? Anyway, my wife told me the washing machine's not working, it's flickering, and we had to leave. I had to go. I went away this Shabbos. I told you I was like in a more Israeli shul this Shabbos, so I had to get out of there, and I was like, I will quickly have a look. I check, and it was Mum's burning out the plug. And if we'd have just left with the washing machine on, whole house, no binyan, no anything. And my wife just had this feeling, we better check why it's flickering. So I checked. I quickly turned off the power, ripped the whole thing off the wall. The plug, the whole thing came off. It was all burned in. The plug was burning, and it would have made a whole fire. Threw it in the bin, and I phoned up an electrician on the bus to Jerusalem. I was like, we just had a miracle. Thank God we found this. And he said you have to cover the wires. The wires were, so I didn't get around to it, and I was thinking the whole Shabbos, please Hashem, but I didn't get around to cover the wires. It's just a safety prevention, but it's not anything going to happen really. But thank God I got there, and there was no problem. We came home, everything was fine, and I'm so happy. And we're going to have an electrician come, please God. One of my friends is moving, who I was in yeshiva with, is moved 5 minutes away from where I live. Has just moved this week, so perfect time. He's going to come and fix it all. My boy. Anyway, but the point is, everything. When you start to get into a life like this, you start to see that the fire could have just destroyed my own house. But rather, what we talk about in this class, and I was thinking maybe in the merit we're learning together, that the fire that we're talking about, the fire of spirituality, if we use it right, then it won't come and burn away things that are positive. It will only light you up more. And that's a very important idea, to take things in this world that could be destructive and use them positively, with fire. That fire, that electricity runs the house. But if you don't merit it and you don't have the protection from above, it can suddenly be destructive and burn your house down. So we shouldn't take it for granted that we have all these things, and that's one of the things Hanukkah we're going to thank Hashem that the fire's in the right way. That we have a house, Baruch Hashem, in Eretz Yisrael. It's not a small thing to have a home in Eretz Yisrael. I'm going to share it with you guys. 2 weeks tonight. We're going to have Nissen tonight, then we're going to have Yosef Kaduna a week and a half after that, and then 2 weeks tonight we're going to have a party in my house. So Hanukkah, we can bring that element of party, of eating food in the right way, but that's not the main mitzvah. The main mitzvah is really Purim. That's the time when we really elevate the physical. That's the Sudas Purim. So you're going to keep saying to me, but did you really answer the question? What about all the other festivals? What happens to them? So let me explain. All the other festivals, what does it say about them? What does it say? When you leave Egypt, See, it's the sign. That's the whole point. He's got it. Eliyahu knows the point. The point of all the festivals is Zeichel Yetzias Mitzrayim. Pesach went out Mitzrayim. Shavuos got the Torah. That was the point of going out Mitzrayim. Sukkot, what's Sukkot? Remember what? When out Mitzrayim. Yeah, and it's a Zeichel to Yetzias Mitzrayim. The Das, the Torah Seichem, the idea of Das, of knowledge. We went out Mitzrayim. So this idea of Mitzrayim. Now, let me ask you, Mitzrayim was the first and the root of all the exiles. And who was the first to put us there? The Arabic nations, Yishmaelim. They were the ones that sent Yosef down to Mitzrayim. Yeah? Next week's, is this week's parsha? This week's parsha. Yishmaelim sent who? Yosef down to Egypt. Yeah? They were the first ones. Fine, it was because of the brothers' lack of actors, but they were the ones who sent Yosef down to where? To Egypt. Egypt's a place of Meitzarim. Meitzarim means restraints. And the Jewish people, this idea, we're always trying to make rachbas, to widen. People think we're narrow. You know, they call us narrow. Yeah? Narrow-viewed. Our religion's very narrow. The whole point of religion is the opposite. Nachlas Yaakov bli Meitzarim, without any of the restraints. We're meant to bring down the spirituality, which takes away all the things holding us down. Yeah? It opens our mind up to a whole different way of thinking.